Ready to jump into another deep dive? Today we're taking on a topic that's probably got your heart racing just a bit.
Yeah, those UK Tier 4 student visa interviews.
Exactly. It's a
Oh,
big one. I mean, this interview, it's a huge step towards your dream of studying in the UK. And we're here to help you absolutely smash it.
we are. You're going to break down exactly what those visa officers are looking for.
Give you the inside scoop.
You know, it's funny. A lot of students we've talked to, they see this interview as like this big, scary hurdle. But honestly, I like to think of it more as an opportunity.
Okay, I like that.
It's your chance to really showcase your passion, your commitment to your education.
I mean, you're right. But also, no pressure, right? Just a casual chat with the fate of your study abroad dreams hanging in the balance.
You're not wrong. It can feel pretty high stakes. And that's exactly why we do what we do. We're here to break it all down,
Yeah.
demystify the process.
Right.
We've gone through a ton of resources for this one.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, we've got official university guides to start, real interview questions that students have been asked,
Nice.
and even some examples of like successful student responses and some not so successful ones too, all to help you feel super prepared walking into that interview room.
I love it. So let's talk about what those visa officers are really looking for. I mean, from everything we've seen, it seems like it's about way more than just ticking those boxes, meeting the basic requirements. They want to know you're the real deal, right?
You hit the nail on the head. Think of it from their perspective for a second. The UK government, they want to make sure that the people they're giving these visas to, they're genuinely interested in study,
Makes sense.
not just using it as a way to slip into the country. They want to know you're for real. And that's where the whole idea of a credibility interview comes in.
Okay, so credibility interview, basically proving you are who you say you are. But how do you actually do that? Is it just about having all your paperwork perfectly organized and like answering those questions perfectly?
That's a great question. And while, yes, that practical stuff is definitely important, there's a lot more to it than that. To really impress those visa officers, you need to show them 5 key things. Think of them as like the pillars of a successful visa interview.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's break down these pillars.
Okay, so pillar number 1, and honestly, this is probably the most important one, genuine enthusiasm. They want to see that spark when you talk about what you want to study,
Got it.
about the university you've chosen, about the UK in general.
So like no pretending to be super psyched about British weather.
Let's just say your enthusiasm should go a little deeper than the weather. But on a serious note, they want to see this is something you're truly passionate about, something you've put thought into. And that leads us to pillar number 2, detailed research.
Let me guess, this is where all those late nights on Google really pay off.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just skimming the university website. You really need to show them a deep understanding of your program, like what modules you'll be taking, who are the professors, the research specializations. Imagine being able to talk about how a specific professor's work lines up perfectly with your own academic interests. How impressive would that be?
Okay, yeah, I'm already seeing how going to that level of detail would really make you stand out. It's like saying, hey, I didn't just click on this university by accident. I'm here for a reason. I know what I'm doing.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And honestly, the more specific you can get, the more credible you'll sound. Like instead of just saying, yeah, I'm interested in computer science,
Right,
talk about a specific area within computer science that you want to focus on,
right.
like artificial intelligence or cybersecurity. Maybe even mention a recent research paper from the department that really resonated with you.
It's all about like connecting the dots, right? Showing them you get the bigger picture. You're not just there for a single class.
Yes, connecting those dots, I love that. Which actually brings us perfectly to our 3rd pillar, financial clarity. This one is so crucial because the UK government wants to be sure that you can actually afford to support yourself while you're there studying.
Yeah, because like running out of money halfway through your program, that wouldn't be a good look. Not ideal.
Not at all. Not to mention, the UK has a pretty rigorous system when it comes to international students and finances. So you really want to be prepared to talk about your funding sources in detail. So you're relying on savings, family support. Did you get a scholarship?
So it's not enough to just be like, oh yeah, my parents are paying for it.
Not really. It's
Yeah.
better to think of it more like presenting a budget. You need to show them you understand exactly how much this is all going to cost. Tuition, of course, but also living expenses, visa fees. And you've got a realistic plan to cover it all.
Do you have like an example of what a really strong answer would sound like for that?
I do. We actually came across a great example in our research. One student actually made a spreadsheet that outlined their projected expenses for the whole duration of their program.
Wow.
Right. Broke it down by category like rent, groceries, transportation, even entertainment. And they converted everything into British pounds.
Okay, that is impressive. Talk about being prepared.
Right. And here's the best part. They weren't just like rattling off numbers. They could actually explain the reasoning behind each expense. Like, this is why I think I need this much for.
Hmm.
That level of detail really shows financial awareness and maturity.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered genuine enthusiasm, detailed research, financial clarity. What's next?
Pillar number 4 is understanding UK immigration rules. Now, this might seem kind of obvious, but it's surprising how many students trip up on this one.
Really? Okay, what kind of stuff falls under that umbrella?
So it's all about showing that you understand the terms and conditions of the visa you're applying for. Like, do you know how many hours you're allowed to work each week? What's the process for extending your visa if you want to stay longer and study more? And really importantly, what happens after you graduate?
So no, like pulling a disappearing act after graduation and hoping no one notices you're still there.
Not quite. They want to see that you've thought about your long-term plans and how your UK education is going to play into that. Which actually brings us to our 5th and final pillar, strong English skills.
Okay, so this one feels like a no-brainer, but I'm guessing it's a bit more nuanced than just being able to order a cup of tea.
You're right. I mean, you don't need to be Shakespeare or anything, but you need to demonstrate that you can communicate effectively in English. And that means both speaking and writing.
So how does that actually play out in the interview? Are they going to make you analyze Shakespearean sonnets or something?
No sonnets. Don't worry. Just remember the whole interview is basically an assessment of your English skills. So they'll be listening to your vocabulary, your grammar, your pronunciation, how fluent you are.
So it's about way more than just giving like the quote-unquote right answers.
Exactly. It's about communicating clearly and confidently. And this is important. If you don't understand a question they ask you, it's better to ask for clarification than to try to mumble through an answer when you're not even sure what they're asking.
That's good to know. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, those 5 pillars. Genuine enthusiasm, detailed research, financial clarity, understanding UK immigration rules, and strong English skills. But how does all of this translate into answering those specific questions they're going to throw at you?
Yeah, it feels like we've been like handed the cheat sheet to the interview, but it's still like you got to know how to play the game right.
Exactly. You've got all the knowledge now. It's about using it when those questions come flying at you. And we've got some great examples to bring this all to life.
Hit me with them.
Okay, let's start with a classic, why this course? Seems simple enough, but there's definitely an art to getting this one right.
Because I'm guessing it looked cool on the website. Probably won't cut it. Probably not. Remember those pillars. This is your moment to put them into action. So start by really explaining what excites you about this field, why you're so drawn to it. Then you can bring it back to the course itself. Are there any modules or research areas that really speak to your interests?
So it's about going beyond, I like computers, and getting way more specific, showing you've done your research.
Yes. And don't be afraid to name drop. Like if there's a professor whose work you really admire, mention them. Explain why their research matters to you and how you're excited to learn from them firsthand.
Ooh, that's such a good point. It shows you're not just picking a name out of a hat, you're choosing strategically.
Exactly. Okay, another question that tends to trip people up, why this university? And again, it's about going deeper than those surface level answers.
So more than just, oh, it's a top-ranked university.
Right. Because while, yeah, rankings matter, they don't tell the whole story. What you want to focus on is the university's unique strengths, the things that really make it stand out, especially the ones that connect to your goals. Do they have an amazing research lab in your field, a strong alumni network in the industry you want to work in? Maybe they even have a really unique approach to teaching that you love.
It's about finding those things that make it the perfect fit for you.
Yes. And don't forget about the location. What is it about that city or town that appeals to you?
Right, like how will being in that environment help you grow as a student?
Exactly. And speaking of growth, let's talk about the what are your plans after graduation question.
Ooh, that one feels big, like they're asking you to predict your future.
It can definitely feel that way. But just remember, they don't expect you to have a crystal ball. What they really want is to understand your motivation, what your goals are, and how studying in the UK will get you there.
So should you like have an actual job offer lined up and ready to go?
Not necessarily. It's more about having a clear vision. So if you're planning on going back to your home country after you graduate, Explain how having a UK degree will give you an edge in your field back home. If you're hoping to stay in the UK, talk about the steps you'll take to find work like networking, doing internships, really putting yourself out there.
So it's all about showing them you've really thought this through.
Exactly. And it actually circles back to financial clarity. Be ready to talk about how you'll support yourself financially, especially if you're thinking about working part-time while you're studying.
So again, those spreadsheets being organized is key.
It makes a huge difference. Having a solid financial plan shows maturity, responsibility. It shows you understand the commitment you're making.
Okay, we've covered some big questions, but are there any red flags, things people should avoid saying?
That's a great question. And while we don't want to dwell on the negatives, it's definitely good to know what to avoid. I think one of the biggest mistakes is just sounding like you're not being sincere or like you're overly rehearsed. Remember, those visa officers have done this 1,000 times before. They can spot a canned response from a mile away.
Right, so find that balance between being prepared but also sounding natural.
Exactly. Speak from the heart. Another thing to avoid is being too vague or giving contradictory answers. If there are gaps in your education or your work history, be upfront about it. Be honest.
Honesty is always the best policy.
Always. And finally, be realistic. It's amazing to be ambitious, but try to avoid making big claims that don't really line up with your experience or your field.
So no promising to revolutionize an entire industry after a one-year master's program.
Let's just say keep it grounded.
This has been so helpful. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are getting ready to crush this interview?
Just remember, this interview is just one step, a big one, but still just one step in your journey. You got this. Prepare well, be yourself, and most importantly, try to enjoy the experience. This is such an exciting time. You're about to embark on an incredible adventure.
I love that. It's not just about getting the visa, it's about embracing everything that comes after.
Exactly. Learn as much as you can, connect with people from all walks of life, make the most of every single moment.
That's a wrap on another deep dive. We hope this episode has left you feeling informed, empowered, and ready to rock that visa interview. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those passports ready for your next adventure.